Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for following this press conference about Global Shapers launching hubs in East and West Jerusalem. We have here our guests, our distinguished guests with us, and we're very happy to announce this new launch. We have our head of our Global Shapers community, Wadia Hamza, with us. We have also Rateb, Rabi, who is Managing Director of Elevation Ventures, and Munin, Chief Executive Officer of Made in JLM. Myself, I'm Yann Zopf, I'm heading media, and we'll kick off this session, or this press conference, first with Wadia, who will give us a little bit of context. So what is the Shapers community, what do they do, and what is this new launch?
Thanks, Yann. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for tuning in if you're watching us live. So the Global Shapers community is a network of young people around the world who are bringing positive impact into their local communities. The Global Shapers community was created in 2011 by Professor Klaus Schwab as a way to empower young people and give them the platform to enable themselves and organize themselves for local impact. Through the work of the Global Shapers community, we want to amplify the youth voice. As you may know, 50% of the world population is under 30 years old. 50% of the world population is under 30 years old. If we look at this region in particular, 2/3 of the population is under 30. So we need to bring a hope, we need to bring a platform for them to enable them to create that positive impact they want in their local communities. So since 2011, we're now in more than 165 countries around the world with around 400 hubs and more than 8,200 global shapers that are working together in teams in their city-based hubs to create projects and bring that lasting change that they want. It's important to note that we want to change the narrative that the youth are the problems to be seen as part of the solution, because we believe in the lasting change and the positive hope and the work that the young people are bringing and doing at the local level.
Thank you very much, Wadia. Rateb, so you're going to open this new hub. What are your hopes and expectations when you do that?
Basically, we're trying to bring in a network of inspiring young leaders to East Jerusalem, trying to connect the shapers from East Jerusalem with the world. It's a living experience, and we're hoping to maximize on that.
I asked the same question to Roy. You opening this new hub. What are your hopes and expectations when you do that?
Yeah, so very similar. Jerusalem has seen some tremendous economic growth in the past few years, and a lot of the work is going on from young activists on the ground, grassroots leaders leading this change. And a lot of them go unrecognized, unfunded. They do it mostly volunteer. And we believe that by connecting them with global opportunities, with this network of people all over the world, we can help them be more sustainable, we can help them create this change long term, make our city amazing.
So do you have already, I guess this is a starting point for you. You're thinking already about projects that you want to drive forward with your community?
We're mostly focusing on economic empowerment. We're gonna start working on projects real soon because, as you know, today is the launch. And we have a list of projects that we're gonna start focusing on economic empowerment for Palestinians in East Jerusalem. We're not announcing the projects yet, as we're gonna announce them soon.
Right, do you have any plans already?
Yeah, so I'm mostly here to learn and to talk with the different people in the Global Shapers community. I've learned a lot from my first day here. I think that more people want to hear about what's going on from us, from the Shapers down on the ground. We're very interested in this idea of how to take the huge scene of activists that is already happening in Jerusalem and that is doing basically the most exciting things that are happening, and how to support them better and how to connect them globally. So yeah, same here, no projects to announce today, but we're thinking about it, we're open to suggestions to having these conversations.
And maybe Wadia, I mean, this is a starting point. And maybe you can give us a little bit more context about Shape MENA also. What does it mean? What are the activities there, and how does this fit in?
So as Rateb and Roy mentioned, we do bring shapers at the regional level in different capacities. One, we bring shapers to forum events, to the World Economic Forum events, in order to share the insights and the opinions of the young people with all the stakeholders that are present, for example, here in the Dead Sea for the MENA Summit. But also we have our own platform where we bring the shapers from regional events. And as you mentioned, we had Shape MENA in the last 4 days before this summit, where the Amman Hub hosted around 100 shapers from the whole region to look what are the effects of climate change on a country like Jordan in terms of ecosystems, in terms of nature, but also on the local communities. So during Shape MENA, we visited the wetland reserve, the wildlife reserve, and see firsthand the impacts of climate change and what can we do about it as young people, because we cannot be criticizing and only do nothing, but we need to be firsthand doing something. So the Shapers launched different projects, talked about different best practices from different regions. We had Shapers from the Middle East and North Africa, but also from around the world, from Australia, from Panama, who shared their best practices from their own local communities. And to your question about the projects, I'm really proud of the work that the Shapers are doing, either in the region or globally. In the last 12 months, for example, we saw the launch of more than 530 projects that tackle local issues that are identified by the Shapers in their local communities. If we take the region of Middle East and North Africa, and not far away from here, Amman Hub, they tackled mental health through a campaign. It's a big taboo in our societies, but we hear more in close circles words like burnout, like depression, and those words they didn't exist a few years ago. And the Amman Hub tackled that in a really great way, and they launched a project called Nafsiya, which is mentally. The Erbil Hub in Kurdistan, Iraq, they are working to help the young people who are affected by cancer, and also help the young people who were affected by what happened in the whole region and the effects of post-ISIS. Traumatized kids, traumatized children. So those are kind of small projects that the young people are doing, to bring hope and show also the world that the young people can be part of the solution.
So maybe for you who are both establishing a new hub, so what are the things that you're taking away from what you have seen so far here, and you're going to see also later today and tomorrow? You had already sessions, you had already Shape MENA actually before coming to the summit. So what are the inspirations that you're going to take with you to your hub?
I think simply said, committed to improving the state of the world. That's what we're taking home. And connecting to a network of 8,000 shapers, that's for East Jerusalem, that will bring in hope, that will bring in at least economic ideas, empowerment solutions. So basically, we're another hub improving the state of the world.
What I love about the World Economic Forum is that people here really think big, and they tackle global challenges from everything between energy and education to civic engagement and migration. And so I think that's what I'm bringing home, trying to see who in our city has amazing ideas that can be a role model for people outside, and to give them inspiration and ideas out there. So what can we contribute to the rest of the global community? And bringing back home this idea that, again, I see this more and more, that I think that young people solve different problems and care about different problems and solve them in a different way than the older generation. And it's very interesting to see how there's kind of a mismatch there, and how we can bridge it and make sure that we all work together towards solving these problems quicker and supporting young leaders.
Okay, so we can open, as of now, the floor for questions. Do we have any questions immediately here in the room from the journalists? So if we don't have immediate questions, you can still intervene and ask any questions. Maybe then another one from my side. I was wondering, since every region has their specific kind of challenges, what do you think for your respective hubs? are the main challenges you have to overcome really kind of to be a successful hub?
I think we both share one thing. We are living in a moderately poor area, but technologically strong. So it's going to be connecting with other hubs in the country to learn from each other and grow together.
Yeah, so Jerusalem, one of the two largest things that people are talking about are brain drain and unemployment. And these are challenges that we've already made some progress on, but definitely are the big challenges to tackle in the city. Even the people who make a high wage in the city, most of them are government jobs, so we take more of the taxpayer dollar than we put in. And the idea is really how to create revenue channels that bring money into the city and bring taxpayer dollars back to the country.
If we look at it from a regional perspective or global perspective, the young people have many concerns that are affecting the world. In the last Global Shapers survey, climate change came as number one problem. If we see the region, corruption came as also a big concern, as well as the effects of conflicts and wars. How can we live in this region all together without any conflicts? And as we know, it's a potential, and now we're living in some countries like Syria living in the post-ISIS war. How can we rebuild the country? We have a hub in Iraq, Erbil, and when we talk to the Shapers, they're very optimistic about the country, and we can see that the hope is still living there. How can we work together as a global community of 8,000 members in order to share best practices? Because when we see the challenges, they are similar all around the world. The scope and the scale is different. But if we bring together not to reinvent the wheel and share best practices, share the resources, I think we can overcome all those challenges.
And if I could maybe comment again,
please,
I want to maybe send out a request to the leaders watching this maybe at home and say that we were just starting this out, and we are looking to you to hear your challenges and what you care about, and to help you in supporting your mission. Because I don't think that we'll have the answers for everything. We definitely have our own things that we care about, but this is mainly about supporting the leaders back home.
Rateb, what's your message to the leaders?
Support us, we support you, simply. Empower us, we empower you.
So you mentioned, I think what is important to mention, we have, for example, here 100 startups who will be here. So these are entrepreneurs. You are both also entrepreneurs in your way by creating a hub, but also kind of what you do kind of for the rest of the time. So being an entrepreneur in that region, what does it mean? Do you have, again, we're talking about challenges in the region. Is it particular to be an entrepreneur here?
It's challenging. It's extremely challenging. There are so many obstacles, but being an entrepreneur means that you have to overcome all these obstacles. And this is what makes life worth living, trying to find solutions to obstacles for you and for others. And this is what we hope to do also. By connecting to this network, it's extremely important to have East Jerusalem on that map.
Yeah, so I think I grew up in a generation that considers entrepreneurs heroes. So the Startup Nation kind of story, and just growing up and seeing the role models of people who make it. And I think especially in our small country that is a bit like an island in many ways, that's the only way to survive, is to kind of make something big, to create jobs for people around you. And I think it's really interesting, like the differences between East and West Jerusalem, I think, in that concept of entrepreneurship. But I think it's a shared theme between all of us that entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to make the difference and change things.
Like, give us the leadership and we'll change the world.
Good. Maybe any input from the room? Can we have a microphone here for a question? We have two questions here in the front.
My main question to Mr. Hamza. What we learned that Davos has had the Global Shapers very much integrated in the program. And we could see that the Global Shapers are now taking a more leadership role within the World Economic Forum. My question to you is, could you tell us how old is the Global Shapers initiative? And when are we expected to actually see the influence of the initiative out of the spectrum of the World Economic Forum and more leadership throughout those perspectives, especially that I keep hearing how the hubs are being launched in many conflict areas that are in need of those initiatives. So it's interesting to learn how is that going to add or contribute to the resolution of those conflict areas.
So it's important to note that, as you mentioned, the global shapers are well integrated in the ecosystem of the World Economic Forum. It's worth noting that the last annual meeting in Davos this year, we had 6 co-chairs that were global shapers. Global shapers, the power of this community is to bring voices that are unheard. We heard in Davos from Mohammed, who is the founding curator of the Kakuma Hub. It's the 2nd biggest refugee camp in the world, 250,000 people. And having that community brings this kind of hope, because without the community, Mohammed could not even be in Davos or be in any other platform that now he's going into. So bringing the shapers to Davos is important for the young people, but also important for the stakeholders, because the young people bring a new, fresh ideas, opinions that are unheard of. So, for example, in one of the sessions, we were talking about the challenges of the continent of Africa. The young people brought the problem of visas. When we see the other stakeholders, being its public figures, being its CEOs, they don't have such problems. Young people, you have to queue, you have to be there and drop your documents and fight. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to be open to the global world. How can you be global if we have borders, if we have such kind of challenges that many people don't have, but that the majority of the population have? So our role is to bring such insights to the world leaders, but also bring solutions, as you said, to the conflict. We're not saying that the young people are the solution, but they are part of the solution. They need to be integrated around the table to talk about the potentials, because any solution or any decision making, they are the guys who will be living it, not the actual decision makers. So we have hubs around the world in, for example, Mogadishu in Somalia. In the last terrorist attacks, where we saw, unfortunately, the death of more than 300 people, the Mogadishu hub, in 24 hours, they created a project to create an app that will connect the blood donors with the hospitals. The problem was not the shortage of blood. The problem was the connection between the right type of blood with the right type of hospital. In 24 hours, they solved the problem of shortage of blood in a country like Somalia. So is that entrepreneurship, but brought to the community, to have more an entrepreneurship that is connected to the network of, or to the needs of the society and what the world wants at the grassroots level.
Thank you, Wadia. Anything you would like to add to that? We have another question here in front, please.
The creation of both hubs was probably a very long process. So my question is, can you tell us a bit more about this process, what it took, and about the struggle, debate, and decision to create 2 hubs and not one?
So in the Global Shapers community, to create any hub, we go through a process of due diligence. We want the founding curator to be a person who's respected by the local community. That person should have access to the young people, should be trusted by the young people, but also can open doors to the young people. So if you see the Global Shapers community, we have founding curators that are really bright and smart people that range from filmmakers to politicians to business leaders to young people who are doing a great job at the local level. For Jerusalem East and Jerusalem West hubs, it took us a while because it's a bold decision. And it's a strategic decision to create the 2 hubs in that city. And it came through a process of identifying who are the right people who will be launching the hubs that have the credibility at the local level, who have a track record of the work that is done at the grassroots level, who are both being trusted by the local community. So Rateb, as the founding curator of the East Jerusalem, and Meredith, who unfortunately could not be with us here, as the founding curator of the Jerusalem West hubs, are both very strong leaders in their local communities. And they are strong leaders because also they see the opportunity of bringing such community of of world leaders in their 20s to be connected with the local community. It's a connection that will bring best practices, but also take best practices from those two communities to the world and tell the stories from those local communities to the world, not through intermediaries, but connected directly with the other global shapers.
Thank you, Wadia. One more question here.
Hello. Thank you. That was really interesting. Roy, this is a question for you. You did mention the difference between the two hubs in East and West Jerusalem, and I was wondering if you have any plans to connect these hubs together as a form of empowerment, and if so, how? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that we are currently both focused on creating our own team of shapers and solving the problems that are relevant most to our hub. And in the future, we have hundreds of hubs around the world that we want to cooperate with, definitely the ones that are in our region. And we're definitely open to anything, but there are no specific plans yet. We're just focusing on solving
Growing
problems
the
in our
hubs.
region. Yeah.
Yes.
Here, one more question, please. Is the microphone?
Thank you for the interesting news. And my question is, now after you announce the launching for the hub, what are the essential tools needed for you to succeed more?
Rateb, you want to start? What are the tools? What's needed for you to make
way
it?
too complicated to answer in one session. The tools is selecting the proper shapers, connecting them with the proper network, locally and abroad. And again, it's complicated because in East Jerusalem, you cannot bring all the shapers from all around the world for so many reasons. But we're focusing on technology, and we're trying to focus on technology itself as a way to overcome all these barriers. So the tools that we're looking for is strong shapers and finding a good project that will unite us all together in that hub.
Right.
I will maybe add just the support of the global community, having people who are visionaries and forward-thinking, being involved with this on a global level, and giving these shapers that join us the power to do things on a global scale that they couldn't do before. I think that would be the main advantage for anybody who joins the hub. Does it add something to them that they can do that they couldn't do locally before? I think it's definitely true for funding for some of these projects. If we want them to be not a side project or a volunteer thing, but something that people are able to do full time and grow. But also generally support, mentorship, connections. Global brands, sometimes when they're involved, they have the amazing power of bringing people together who wouldn't otherwise come together in Jerusalem. So I think that is something that we'd be really interested in partnering with. Yeah, but generally the network, the global network.
And maybe, I mean, I don't want to call this a tool because it's a community,
Yeah.
but I mean, there are many tools coming with the community, and maybe Wadia, to close
Sure.
this press conference, you can recap. I mean, there are things like we have a digital platform and other things. I mean, there are topics which are very important at the World Economic Forum, like the fourth industrial revolution. So you talk about technology. We're trying to provide also such tools to help that.
Let
to
me
make
add
the
to
success.
it. I think it's a good opportunity from here to send an invitation to big companies such as Google, Facebook, to come invest in East Jerusalem. We are on the map, we're ready to work, and we have brilliant talents. And I think there is no other place than here to send them an invitation. Come invest in East Jerusalem. Let's grow.
And that's maybe also Wadia, the strength of the Shapers community, because it's not only a community between the Shapers, but it's also a community that interacts with the other communities at the World Economic Forum.
Exactly. So to take more your question from the operational perspective, what we expect as next steps from both hubs, and as I mentioned at the beginning, the first objective of the community is to enable youth to self-organize for impact. We will not organize them. We ask every hub to organize themselves. So one, they have to start by their governing documents. What are we asking from the shapers? What is the value that we want to bring in the shapers that we will be recruiting? What kind of projects we want to launch? And we push from our side for the diversity. We want every hub to look like their communities from a diversity perspective. Social classes, neighborhood, minorities, majorities, ethnicities, races. So that diversity and representation is very important for us, and we keep that standards all over the world. So those are kind of measures that will kind of push the young people also out of their comfort zones in order to become better leaders. Direct impacts on them, but also indirect impacts on their local communities. And as Yann mentioned, the other tools that are available, one is the connection with the other communities, especially the sister communities of the global shapers, the young global leaders, the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurs, and we have in both communities amazing leaders in those spheres that are either in the public sector or in the private sectors, but also the tools and the resources of the World Economic Forum. I learned, for example, yesterday from the Caracas hub in Venezuela, they are taking some of the resources that are available on the digital platform that my colleague Yann mentioned, and they are taking that knowledge and translating it to the needs of the local communities in terms of knowledge, in terms of content, more about the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, drones, and sometimes we feel that the societies are so disconnected from the reality of the speed that the fourth industrial revolution is going with. So how can we democratize the access to that kind of information? And many hubs have done a great job in connecting those two poles. And those are kind of resources that are available immediately for all the shapers and all the hubs around the world.
Thank you very much, Wadia. I think that was a great conclusion. Thank you very much, Rateb and Roy.
Thank you. Yann.
Good luck, all the best for these new hubs, and we hope to see you soon again. Maybe same place here, and you tell us.
Maybe in Jerusalem.
And in Jerusalem, I would love
invited.
to. And then we're looking forward to hear from your projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you.